Hello.
Hi.
Hi. So, come here. Because I give you the floor immediately afterwards, after the short introduction by me. Is it good for you that we go to the other side also? Because here it is in English and on the other side it's in Hungarian.
It's okay here.
No, but I think it's important. So why we do this? It's clear that Viktor Orbán, who is more and more leading the most extreme right-wing political powers in Europe, the only thing what he likes in the European Union is the money. And the money that means money for projects that even benefit to him and to his family. And he is under scrutiny for that. At the same time, he doesn't like at all the European values. And that is something that has to stop. You cannot say, oh yeah, the money that I like, but the values I don't apply them. And we see that with NGOs who have difficulties in Budapest and in Hungary. You have the university, the CEU, that has been closed. Now it's the first time that happens that since the Second World War there is in Europe a university that has to close, that cannot continue its work. There are the problems with the rule of law, the constant changes of the electoral law also to strengthen his position. And it's time that that we react to this. The latest thing that he did was using money, I think European money, to launch a campaign against our colleague, Mrs. Argentini, because of her report. And what is happening? Well, until if we do nothing, nothing is happening, because the European Council, for example, has not started to discuss the Article 7 procedure. Nevertheless, Parliament has voted for it, and they are obliged to do so, to discuss this Article 7 procedure. And at the same time, Mr. Orbán continues to be a distinguished member of the European People's Party, like nothing is happening. So it's time that we react to this. Far too long what we have seen is Mr. Orbán very aggressively attacking liberal democracies. We call it illiberalism. He wants to create an illiberal state, and Europeans do nothing at all. Don't react. Don't even say we're going to stop you. Well, it's time that we do that, and that's the reason for this truck in English and at the other side, but you're going to see it in a few moments in Hungarian. We're going to go with this truck to a number of places in Brussels, the Commission, the European Council, the Hungarian Embassy, the seat of the permanent representative of Austria, who is in the lead of the European Union for the moment. And then a second idea is to go to Budapest, and it's our friends from Momentum, our party young party in Hungary who will be responsible for that. Concerning the price, this is a campaign of 1,532 euros. Only the Brussels part, so I don't know, I have to add to that the part in Budapest, so it's not how many millions that he is spending in a campaign against
I mean, it's
much more. I think
it's much more efficient.
I think we are more efficient with that.
So who is this campaign aimed at? Is it aimed at MEPs? Is it aimed at the Hungarian people? Because are you just kind of stoking up the
to the Hungarian people? That's the reason why, if you have a minute, you're going to see at the other side the clear slogan also in Hungarian. Something has to change in Hungary, and I think that with momentum we have a very strong new party who had candidates last time for the first time in the elections, but they're all young people, very positive people, young people, liberal and democratic people. So this counter movement is growing, and especially in Hungary. And at the other side, it's also a message to the people here in Brussels, because otherwise it's not necessary to have the car in Brussels, so that they take their responsibility, because they can take their responsibility. We have taken our responsibility with the European Parliament. We have voted for an Article 7, and since then I don't talk about the Commission, I mainly talk about the European Council.
Well, people
Nothing
have
is happening.
People have voted for Viktor Orbán as well.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that you have the majority, that you can do what you want. I respect the outcome of the elections in Hungary. I don't dispute them, the elections in Hungary. But that doesn't mean if you have a majority in a country that you can start to forbid NGOs to be active. That you can start to close down a university.
Probably he was not elected on that basis. I don't remember.
But don't you risk stirring up the very tensions that you claim you want to quell down?
Until what is happening is that far too long now, the last 10 years, pro-Europeans have been silent about this. We are talking about the Stability and Growth Pact, and we are talking a lot about the single market, but we don't talk about what is the biggest threat for the moment in Europe, that is undermining the values and the principles of the European Union. And nobody does it. Well, we will do it. And we will do it in the coming year. And we will start with such a campaign. Other campaigns will follow. It's enough now. We have enough seen the push of nationalist, populist, illiberal, authoritarian people in Europe saying, okay, we are the new face of Europe. We have to stop them. And the only way to stop them is to fight against them. Not to be complacent with them, as the EPP is doing. And now I'm stopping.
Martin, and then we can take over. Okay, before the question. Sorry. Okay, thanks very much. I really appreciate Verhofstadt. So I really appreciate this opportunity to say a few words on behalf of Momentum. We set up our party last year, and I think it represents a new generation of Hungarians, a group of people who are willing to stand up for their rights, who are willing to organize and actually challenge the Orbán regime back in national politics. So we ran in national politics this year. We have great hopes for the European elections in 2019. And let me just give you two examples of what we're trying to do to actually challenge the Orbán regime back home. Mr. Verhofstadt mentioned the CEU. We organized a demonstration 2 weeks ago. I think it was attended by about 2,000 people. But what we find outrageous is that the government is working actively to kick out the best higher education institution in the country. So there's one condition that's preventing the CEU from staying in Budapest, which is an interstate agreement between Hungary and the state of New York. So we thought we would put some pressure on the government, obviously backed up by thousands of people on the streets, to make sure that the best university in Hungary can stay in Budapest. We didn't have much of an impact the first time, so we're sending a second warning to the government that this is unacceptable. Enough is enough. We need to make sure that the CEU stays in Budapest. This is the best university we have in the country and needs to stay in Budapest. I'll give you another example. An independent MP started collecting signatures for Hungary to join the European Public Prosecutor's Office. We thought this is the right thing to do, so we mobilized our entire organization across the country to make sure that people sign this initiative so that Hungary, along with all the other member states of the EU, decides to join the European Public Prosecutor's Office. I can tell you that there's a great deal of interest in Hungary. Within, I think, 2 months, we've collected more than 100,000 signatures. People want to make sure that there's proper judicial oversight of the spending of EU money in Hungary. These are just two examples of what we can do. We're a brand new political party, but there's a great deal of momentum, as they say, to make sure that we challenge the sorts of things that Orbán stands for. And let me just close on a final thought. I think the battle that we're engaged in right now, it's a battle for the soul of Europe. Orbán, Salvini, Le Pen, they stand for a certain type of Europe, a Europe of nations, but a Europe that's actually quite conservative in its outlook on life. We think that there's a European majority, a 2/3 majority, as demonstrated by the Sargentini report, that stands for European values, that stands for the sort of Europe in which we work together, and we're willing to work for this, not just in national politics, but in European politics as well. And we greatly appreciate the support by our Liberal friends. We'd like to join the ADA group. I think we will join the ADA group quite soon, and we look forward to working together to challenge this man in the coming months and years. Thanks so much.
Now we go to the other side.
And then let's go to the Hungarian side indeed.